on, wow, there were so many speakers, so many things that were downloaded into us. It was almost overwhelming. I will tell you this, and it was an amazing moment. I was invited to be a part of a press conference just outside the Capitol steps. It was held by Bishop Harry Jackson, Dr. Jim Garlow, Pastor Skyline Wesleyan, and Dr. Tony Perkins of the Family Research Council. About 20-25 of us stood with them as Bishop Jackson, being an African-American pastor, really challenged our president in his recent statements with regards to same-sex marriage. And he said some bold, and he didn't navigate it, he didn't nuance it, he just put it straight out there, man, and challenged our president. And our president, you realize, he didn't put it in political terms, he didn't put it in sociological terms. Everyone, I hope, understands when they heard that announcement, he put it in theological terms. He said, as a practicing Christian who believes in Christ's sacrifice and the golden rule, and then he made his announcement affirming same-sex marriage. So you understand, he made a theological statement. And as pastors, we are rising and we're going to correct the president on his theology. If we didn't elect a theologian, then he needs to be corrected on his theology at this particular point. So we had a press conference there, and let me tell you one brief story, the most amazing thing. There were 12, there had to have been a dozen television media people there with their cameras, another dozen at least print media people. And of course there was a group of folks that had come around to be a part of the press conference. But then as visitors, of course, were always swarming by the Capitol, a crowd just gathered. I mean, this gigantic crowd started to gather. And there were teenagers who were visiting the Capitol, bike riders, runners. I mean, people of every imaginable, reason were gathering there. And as the press conference started, you could hear, I call them like cat calls. There were sort of like derisive calls. It's kind of like, y'all are crazy, you're out to lunch. These sort of calls, which I guess did not surprise me, just understanding what it takes to stand in the place we were standing. But the longer it went, and of course, as Bishop Jackson would give his statements and the pastors, there were only about, like I said, 20-25 of us, we would clap. All of a sudden, in about 5 minutes, the atmosphere started to shift. You could sense it. Until suddenly, the whole crowd that had gathered that was once catcalling and hollering, they were clapping. Some of the media was clapping. And by the time that was over, it ended up being a rally. And the Spirit of the Lord spoke to me just at that moment. I was just like this little fly, because I was just in this group of about 20-25, just standing in support. The Lord spoke to me, and this is what he said. He said, if pastors would just step into their authority and they would engage the nation, I'll shift the atmosphere. So I walked away encouraged. It was a cool experience, and we may have more stories to tell, but that was just a highlight. And